Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Chapter 25. Shaunaka Uvacha Kapilastatvasamkhyata Bhagavan Atma Mayaya Jatah Swayamajas Sakshat Atma Pragnaptaye Nrunam. Sri Saunaka said, although he is unborn, the Supreme Personality of Godhead took birth as Kapila Muni by his internal potency. He descended to disseminate transcendental knowledge for the benefit of the whole human race. Nahyasya varshmanah pumsam varimnah sarvayoginam vishrutau shrutadevasya bhuri trupyanti me savaha. Shaunaka continued, there is no one who knows more than the Lord himself. No one is more worshipable or more mature a yogi than he. He is therefore the master of the Vedas, and to hear about him always is the actual pleasure of the senses. Yadyad vidatte bhagavan swachandatmatma mayaya tani me shraddadhanasya kirtantyanyanu. Therefore, please precisely describe all the activities and pastimes of the personality of Godhead, who is full of self-desire and who assumes all these activities by his internal potency. Sutta Uvacha Dvaipayanasakastvevam Maitreyo Bhagavamstata Pradeham Viduram Prita Anvikshikyam Prachoditaha. Sri Sutta Goswami said, the most powerful sage Maitreya was a friend of Vasudeva. Being encouraged and pleased by Vidura's inquiry about transcendental knowledge, Maitreya spoke as follows. Maitreya Uvacha Pitari Prastiteranyam Matuh Priyachikirshaya Tasmin Bindusare Vasid Bhagavan Kapilah Kila. Maitreya said, when Kardama left for the forest, Lord Kapila stayed on the strand of the Bindu Sarovara to please his mother Devahuti. Tamasi namakarmanam tattvamargagradarshanam swasutam devahutyaha dhatus samsmarati vachaha. When Kapila, who could show her the ultimate goal of absolute truth, was sitting leisurely before her, Devahuti remembered the words Brahma had spoken to her, and she therefore began to question Kapila as follows. Devahutiruvacha Nirvina nitaram bhuman nasadindriya tarshanat yena sambhavyamanena prapannandhyam tamah prabho. Devahuti said, I am very sick of the disturbance caused by my material senses, for because of this sense disturbance, my Lord, I have fallen into the abysses of ignorance. Tasya tvam tamasondhasya dushparasyadhyapararam paragam Satchakshurjanmanamante labdham me tvadanugrahat. Your Lordship is my only means of getting out of this darkest region of ignorance, because you are my transcendental eye, which by your mercy alone I have attained after many, many births. या आद्यो भगवान् पुंसाम् ईश्वरो वै भवान् किल लोकस्य तमसान्धस्य चक्षुः सूर्य इवोदितः. You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the origin and the Supreme Lord of all living entities. You have arisen to disseminate the rays of the sun in order to dissipate the darkness of ignorance of the universe. Atame deva sammoham apakrashtum tvamarhasi yo vagraho hamsameti tasmin yojitastvaya. Now be pleased, my Lord, to dispel my delusion. Due to my feelings of false ego, I have been engaged by your Maya and have identified myself with the body and consequent bodily relations. Tam tvagataham sharanam sharanyam swamrutya samsarataro kutaram jignasayaham pravriteh purushasya namami sandharmavidham varishtam. Devahuti continued, I have taken shelter of your lotus feet because you are the only person of whom to take shelter. You are the axe which can cut the tree of material existence. I therefore offer my obeisances unto you, who are the greatest of all transcendentalists, and I inquire from you as to the relationship between man and woman and between spirit and matter. Maitreya uvacha iti svamanurtiravadyamipsitam nishamya pumsamapavargavardhanam diyabinandhyatmavatam satam gatir babhasha ishatsmita shobhitananaha. Maitreya said, after hearing of his mother's uncontaminated desire for transcendental realization, the Lord thanked her within himself for her questions, and thus his smiling face, he explained the path of transcendentalists who are interested in self-realization. Shri Bhagavanuvacha yoga adhyatmikah pumsam mato nihiksheya sayame atyanto paratiryatra dukkhasya cha sukhasya cha. The personality of Godhead answered, the yoga system which relates to the Lord and the individual soul, which is meant for the ultimate benefit of the living entity and which causes detachment from all happiness and distress in the material world, is the highest yoga system. Tamimam te pravakshyami yamavocham puranaghe rishinam shrotu kamanam yogam sarvanganaipunam. O most pious mother, I shall now explain unto you the ancient yoga system which I explained formerly to the great sages. It is serviceable and practical in every way. चेतस्वल् चेतः कल्वस्य बन्धाय मुक्तये चात्मनो मतं गुणेषु सक्तं बन्धाय रतं वा पुंसि मुक्तये. The sage in which the consciousness of the living entity is attracted by the three modes of material nature is called conditional life. But when the same consciousness is attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one is situated in the consciousness of liberation. Aham mamabhimanothyaihi kamalobhadibhirmalai कामलोभादिभिर्मलैः वीतं यदा मनःशुद्धं adukkamasukam samam. When one is completely cleansed of the impurities of lust and the greed produced from the false identification of the body as I and the bodily possessions as mine, one's mind becomes purified. In that pure state, he transcends the stage of the so-called material happinesses and distress. Tada purusha atmanam kevalam prakruteh param nirantaram swayam jyotir animanakanditam. At that time, the soul can see himself to be transcendental to the material existence and always self-effulgent, never fragmented, although very minute in size. Jnana vairagya yuktena bhakti yuktena chatmana paripashyatyudasinam prakrutim chahataujasam. In that position of self-realization, by practice of knowledge and renunciation in devotional service, one sees everything in the right perspective. He becomes indifferent to material existence and the material influence acts less powerfully upon him. Nayujyamanaya bhaktya bhagavatyakilatmani sadrushosti shivah panta yoginam brahma siddhaye. Perfection in self-realization cannot be attained by any kind of yogi unless he engages in devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for that is the only auspicious path. Prasangamajaram pasham atmanah kavayo viduhu sayeva sadhushu kruto mokshadvaramapavrutam. Every learned man knows very well that attachment for the material is the greatest entanglement of the spirit soul, but that same attachment, when applied to the self-realized devotees, opens the door of liberation. Greatest entanglement of every learned man knows very well that the attachment for the material is the greatest entanglement for the spirit soul, but the same attachment, when applied to the self-realized devotees, opens the door of liberation. Titikshava karunikaha suhrudas sarvadehinam ajata shatravashanta sadhavas sadhu bhushanaha. The symptoms of a sadhu are that he is tolerant, merciful, and friendly to all living entities. He has no enemies. He is peaceful. He abides by the scriptures, and all his characteristics are sublime. Mayyananyena bhavena bhaktim kurvanti ye dridam matkrute त्यक्तकर्माणः त्यक्तस्वजनबान्धवाः. Such a sadhu engages in staunch devotional service to the Lord without deviation. For the sake of the Lord, he renounces all other connections, such as family relationships and friendly acquaintances within the world. सदाश्रया कथा मृष्टाः शृण्वतिः कथयन्ति च तपन्ति विविधास्तापा नैतान्मद्गतचेतसः. Engaged constantly in chanting and hearing about me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the sadhus do not suffer from material miseries because they are always filled with thoughts of my pastimes and activities. Taye te sadhavah sadvi sarvasangavivarjitaha sangaste shvatate prartyaha sangadoshharahite. O my mother, O virtuous lady, these are the qualities of great devotees who are free from all attachment. You must seek attachment to such holy men, for this counteracts the pernicious effects of material attachment. Satam prasangan mama virya samvido bhavanti hrutkarna rasayanah katah tajjoshanaadashvapavarga Shraddharatir In that association of pure devotees, discussion of the pastimes and activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is very pleasing and satisfying to the ear and the heart. By cultivating such knowledge, one gradually becomes advanced on the path of liberation, and therefore he is freed and his attraction becomes fixed. Then real devotion and devotional service begin. Bhaktya puman jata viraga yendriyad društashrutan madrachananuchintaya chittasya yatto grahane yoga yukto yatishyate rujubhir yoga margaihi. Thus, consciously engaged in devotional service in the association of devotees, a person gains distaste for sense gratification, both in this world and in the next, by constantly thinking about the activities of the Lord. This process of Krishna consciousness is the easiest process of mystic power when one is actually situated on that path of devotional service. He is able to control the mind. Asevayayam prakrutergunanam jnanena vairagya vijrumbhitena yogena mayarpitaya cha bhaktya mam pratyagatmana bihavarunde. Thus, by not engaging in the service of the modes of material nature, but by developing Krishna consciousness, knowledge in renunciation, and by practicing yoga, in which the mind is always fixed in devotional service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one achieves my association in this very life, for I am the Supreme Personality, the Absolute Truth. Devahutiruvacha काचिच्वैयुचिता भक्तिः कीदृशी मम गोचरा यया पदं ते निर्वाणम् अंजसान्वाष्णवा aham. On hearing this statement of the Lord, Devahuti inquired, "What kind of devotional service is worth developing and practicing to help me easily and immediately attain the service of your lotus feet?" Yo yogo bhagavad bhano निर्वाणात्मं स्वयोधितः कीदृशः कतिचाङ्गानि एतस्तत्त्वावबोधनम्. The mystic yoga system, as you have explained, aims at Supreme Personality of Godhead and is meant for completely ending material existence. But please let me know the nature of that yoga system. How many ways are there by which one can understand in truth that sublime yoga? Tade tanme vijanihi yataham mandadhirhare sukam buddhyeya durbodham yosha Bhavadanugrahat. My dear son Kapila, after all, I am a woman. It is very difficult for me to understand the absolute truth because my intelligence is not very great. But if you will kindly explain it to me, even though I am not very intelligent, I can understand it and thereby feel transcendental happiness. Maitreya Uvacha विदित्वार्तं कपिलो मानुरित्तं जातस्नेहो यत्र तन्वाभिजातः तत्त्वाम्नायं यत्प्रवदन्ति साङ्ख्यं प्रोवाच वै भक्तिवितानयोगम्. Sri Maitreya said, after hearing the statement of his mother, Kapila could understand her purpose and he became compassionate towards her because of being born of her body. He described the Sankhya system of philosophy, which is the combination of devotional service and mystic realization as received by disciple succession. Shri Bhagavanuvacha Devanam Gunalinganam Anushravika Karmanam Sattvam Evaika Manaso Vruttisvabhaviki Tuya Animitta Bhagavati Bhakti Siddhyergariyasi. Lord Kapila said, the senses are symbolic representations of the demigods, and their natural inclination is to work under the direction of the Vedic injunctions. As the senses are representatives of the demigods, so the mind is the representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The mind's natural duty is to serve. When that service spirit is engaged in devotional service to the Personality of Godhead without any motive, that is far better even than salvation. Jarayatyashu ya kosham nigirnamanalo yata. Bhakti, devotional service, dissolves the subtle body of the living entity without separate effect, just as fire in the stomach digests all that we eat. Naikatmatam me spruhayanti kechin matpadasevabhirata madhihaha yen yonyato bhagavatah prasajya sabhajayante mama paurushani. A pure devotee who is attached to the activities of devotional service and who always engages in the service of my lotus feet never desires to become one with me. Such a devotee who is unflinchingly encouraged always glorifies my pastimes and activities. पश्यन्ति ते मे रुचिराण्यं रुचिराण्यम्भसन्तः प्रसन्नवक्त्रारुणलोचनानि रूपाणि दिव्यानि वरप्रदानि साकं वाचं स्पृहणीयां वदन्ति. O my mother, my devotees always see the smiling face of my form with eyes like the rising morning sun. They like to see my various transcendental forms, which are all benevolent, and they also talk favorably with me. तैर्दर्शनीया वयवैरुधार विलासहासे वामसूक्तैः हृतात्मनो हृतप्राणांश्च भक्तिरनिच्छतो मे गतिमण्वीं प्रयुङ्क्ते. Upon seeing the charming forms of the Lord, smiling and attractive, and hearing his very pleasing words, the pure devotee almost loses all other consciousness. His senses are freed from all other engagements, and he becomes absorbed in the devotional service. Thus, in spite of his unwillingness, he attains liberation without separate endeavor. अतो विभूतिं मम माया विनस्ताम् ऐश्वर्यमष्टाङ्गमनुप्रवृत्तं श्रियं भगवतीं वास्पुहयन्ति भद्रां परस्य मे ते श्रुवते तु लोके. Thus, because he is completely absorbed in thought of me, the devotee does not desire even the highest benediction obtainable in the upper planetary systems, including Satyaloka. He does not desire the 8 material perfections obtained from mystic yoga, nor does he desire to be elevated to the kingdom of God. Yet, even without describing them, the devotee enjoys, even in this life, all the offered benedictions. न कर्हि चिन्मत्परा शान्तरूपे नङ्क्ष्यन्ति नो मे निमिषो लेडिहेतिः येषामहं प्रिय आत्मना सुतश्च सखा Guru Suhrudo Daivamishtam. The Lord continued, My dear mother, devotees who receive such transcendental opulences are never bereft of them. Neither weapons nor the change of time can destroy such opulences, because the devotee accepts me as their friend, their relative, their son, preceptor, benefactor, and supreme deity. They cannot be deprived of their possessions at any time. Imam lokam tataivamum atmanamubhayayinam atmanamanuye cheha ye raya pashavo gruhaha Visrujya sarvananyamscha mamevam vishwato mukham bhajantyananyaya bhaktya tan mrutyorati. Paraye. Thus, the devotee who worships me, the all pervading Lord of the universe, in unflinching devotional service, gives up all aspirations to be promoted to heavenly planets or to become happy in this world with wealth, children, cattle, home, and anything in relationship with the body. I take him to the other side of the birth and death. नान्यत्र मद्भगवतः प्रधानपुरुषेश्वरात् आत्मनः सर्वभूतानां भयं तीव्रं निवर्तते. The terrible fear of birth and death can never be forsaken by anyone who resorts to any shelter other than me, for I am the Almighty Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the original source of all creation, and also the Supreme Soul of all souls. MadbhayadvativatOyam Suryastapati Madbhayat Varshatindro Dahatyagnir Mrutyushcharati Madbhayat. It is because of my supremacy that the wind blows out of fear of me, the sun shines out of fear of me, and the Lord of the clouds, Indra, sends forth showers out of fear of me. Fire burns out of fear of me, and death goes about taking its toll out of fear of me. ज्ञानवैराग्ययुक्तेन भक्तियोगेन योगिनः क्षेमाय पादमूलं मे प्रविश्यन्त्यकुतो भयम्. The yogis, equipped with transcendental knowledge and renunciation and engaged in devotional service for their eternal benefit, take shelter of my lotus feet, and since I am the Lord, they are thus eligible to enter into the kingdom of Godhead without fear. एतावानेव लोकेऽस्मिन् पुंसां निहिक्षेयसोदयः तीव्रेण भक्तियोगेन मनोमय्यार्पितं स्थिरम्. Therefore, persons whose minds are fixed on the Lord engage in the intensive practice of devotional service. That is the only means for attainment of final perfection of life. Thus ends the chapter entitled The Glories of Devotional Service. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.